That does not mean, and this is the critical point, that does not mean this has become a secular country. There are no secular countries, just as there are no secular people. Everybody believes in something. All of us are born with the need to worship. The question is what? So no, America's not lost its religion, it's just replaced its religion.
Tucker Carlson, not happy about the decline of believers in Christianity. In fact, very concerned about the cult of coronavirus. Let's watch.
What's dying is the faith that created Western civilization, Christianity. In its place is a new creed. And like all religions, it has its own sacraments, its own sacred texts. It's the cult of coronavirus. Kathy Hochul is one of the high priestesses of this new faith. She's the governor of New York. Now, no one voted for her as governor, and that seems odd for a politician. But it's typical for a faith leader. No one voted for Jim Jones either. Yesterday, Kathy Hochul held her first service as the leader of the New York diocese of the corona cult. Around her neck, she wore not a cross, that's yesterday's symbol, but instead a vaccination necklace. That necklace signified to the faithful gathered that Hochul has ascended to the select priesthood of those who have taken full intravenous communion.
Now, here's the real question. What would we do if it weren't for a brave and courageous Fox News anchor like Tucker Carlson hitting us with the hard facts? The important stories that really have an impact on our lives. Can you believe that Hochul wore a gold chain that said vaxxed on it?
Oh my God, I am vexed about the vaxxed. I am very, very vexed.
The people want to know.
They need.
The people are saying they're very concerned about the woman's necklace.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell a couple stories about my wife here because they fit into the story. First of all, I have to confess, she has a butterfly necklace. That is because we are now worshiping butterflies.
Oh my God.
Because whatever necklace you're wearing, that is obviously whatever you're worshiping. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this, so I'm glad Tucker pointed it out.
You know what I got on my necklace?
What is it?
Little coins.
That's
Little
it.
coins. Yeah,
Okay.
But you know what? America, it's all we do. We worship the coin.
Yes, well that part is actually true.
It is, okay. Yeah. But by the way, I don't. I work here. Anyway,
I know.
Continue.
Unfortunate. Anyway, ain't nobody got coins. Anyways, tyt.com/join. Okay, seriously. Although there's nothing serious about this story. I mean, what a goofball. I can't believe people watch him and believe him. So he's like, there is no such thing as secular.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was like, this country is supposed to have like constitutional protections from the state endorsing any particular religion, right?
Yeah.
So like, I get what he means. Like the settlers who came here were Calvinists, and I've got a word or two to share with them in just a minute. But this is a country that's supposed to believe in a separation of church and state. So like, who cares about anyone's religion, right? If you want to believe in a religion, great. If you don't want to believe in a religion, even better. But like the fact that this is like breaking news, this is like his top story, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. It's not remotely true, but he says things as if they're
Facts
in such a casual way that you think like, his audience must think, I guess that's true. There are no such thing as secular countries. Well, that's not remotely true. America is a secular country. Why? What does it mean to be a secular country? It means that it's in our constitution that we shall not establish a religion. That's what secular means, that it is not a theocracy. It's not run by a religion. We separate religion and government. That's the definition of a secular country. But he says it like, there are no such things as secular countries or secular people. I'm secular, I'm a secular person. I don't believe the state and government, state and church should be combined. I didn't believe that when I lived in Turkey, and I didn't want Islam to rule the country. Don't believe that here in America. I don't think Christianity or Seventh-day Adventists or anyone else should rule the country. I'm a secular person. But he says it and everybody's like, no. There's no such thing as secular countries. Okay, all right, and then.
So is every country a theocracy? Like, what?
It doesn't make any sense, but he says it so casually that everyone's like, that one's easy. Okay, no secular people, we're moving on, right? Sure. And then he says, now everyone, of course, needs to worship. That's a human trait.
No, that's
not true. There's 1 billion Chinese people that have no religion. And if you're from the West, and I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, really? But they must have some religion. No, they don't have any. My wife, here, we're back to that. Okay, so she can't understand what I went through when I grew up in a religion. I grew up in Islam and I was very secular, sorry Tucker, okay? But we had this general concept of God and we thought God existed and we believed that Muhammad was his prophet and Jesus was the prophet before that, etc., right? And we have all these thoughts that were implanted into our head. They have none of that. So they don't know, it's not a human trait. I get that humanity has sought that out and it is normal for humans to worship, but it is not necessary.
Right.
And there's a billion people who don't worship anything. And so, but he says it and they're like, oh yeah, it's true. It's true, I heard on Tucker. Humans, it's a DNA, need to worship. There is no such thing as a secular person.
But we all know what he's doing, right? Because everything that Tucker does on his show is about sowing fear and hatred. And so this is his way of shouting out to his, honestly, let's keep it real, right wing and elderly audience that
doesn't know a lot of things. I'm being honest.
It doesn't matter if they know a lot of things or not. Okay, let's just assume for the sake of this conversation that their intelligence doesn't weigh in at all. But they do remember a time when the country was far more religious. I mean, we've shown you the polls that show, especially among younger generations, the belief in organized religion, certainly Christianity, has declined significantly. In fact, the majority of the country does not believe in religion at this point. It's the first time ever. That's a fairly recent poll. And so they think it's weird, it's scary, it's new. They don't understand this country anymore. And so what Tucker's doing is he's using that very sensitive topic and fear-mongering about COVID by basically saying like they replaced your lovely religion with this cult of coronavirus vaccines, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is really about.
And so that goes to the next layer. And that's why we always say that Tucker is not one of the dummies. He's actually quite smart. And so what he's doing is he knows that his audience, a lot of them, especially well, they're almost all old in his audience, care deeply about religion. It's not just that they miss the country being more religious. Christianity is a huge part of their identity. Right, so I know older Fox News viewers in my personal life, and yes, they're obsessed with religion. Okay, and so he does this weird turn of logic, which has nothing to do with logic, obviously, to say that anyone who tells you to get vaccinated is attacking your religion. They're attacking Christianity. They're trying to replace Christianity with worshiping coronavirus or the vaccine, right?
So instead of wearing a cross, right?
Bingo.
The New York governor is now, right? Lieutenant governor? What's her
No, she now, of course, she's the governor, which I'm gonna get to.
She's replacing the cross with a gold chain that says vaxxed on it, and so that should trigger you, right? You need a safe space, how dare she?
And that will work, Anna, because they'll think like, oh my God, I'm a Christian. It turns out they're attacking Christianity. Look at, they're wearing the necklaces. They're wearing the necklaces. We wear necklaces, it's got a cross. She's wearing a necklace that says vax. That's it, Tucker's right. You just need a tiny little strand. And then he says casually, she was never elected and neither was this serial killer. Now wait a minute. She was not elected because, well, first of all, that's not true. She was elected to her post. But when Cuomo stepped down, she became the governor because that's how the law works. And you hated Cuomo and wanted him to step down, which by the way, I agree with. And so what did you want her to do? Not take the post? It doesn't, that's how the law works. But he makes it sound nefarious, right? She was never elected and neither was Charles Manson or Jeffrey Dahmer. Yet they're all attacking Christianity. Hide your kittens.
Now, I'm gonna go to one more Tucker clip, but as you're watching this, think about some of the religious people who have taken advantage of their parishioners, who he has never attacked, who he has never done a negative segment on, okay? One more clip from Tucker, let's watch.
For those still making the tough transition from a traditional Western religion, a religion about God, to this new religion, which is not about God, it's really about you, and only you, and more of you, and you can pick up this masked nativity scene online. It looks conventional, but look closely. It features Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus, all with their faces covered, as they should be even in a manger. They're masked, just like you are. In this religion of narcissism, the holiest figures look exactly like you do.
Tucker was right. No, he was right, Cenk. We got to give him credit for that one. The war on Christmas. This is the extended version of the war on Christmas, okay? Little statuettes are wearing a mask. By the way, like, we live in a capitalistic society. The company that made those little figurines or whatever you want to call it, made them because people are gonna buy them. Like, that's capitalism, baby. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
of course, there's
who cares? Who cares? By the way, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? By the way, plenty of Christians have been fully vaccinated. Like, this is such a nonsense, like, ooh, let me figure out a way, like, let me make the craziest stretch of all time. And by the way, before you go into it, Cenk, I can't help myself. While Tucker Carlson is fear-mongering about a vaccine that's literally saving people's lives, he has nothing to say about disgusting people like Kenneth Copeland, who has ripped off his own parishioners so he can buy not one, not two, not three, but several private jets. In fact, recently he asked for a new one. Let's watch.
The time has come.
Hallelujah.
For ministries, particularly traveling ministries, to have some other method of travel,
Yes, sir.
other than the airlines.
That's right. Yes, sir. Agreed.
You get into this situation, we're not going to let you fly unless you're vaccinated. Well, to me, that's the mark of the beast.
I mean, listen, I know this is beside the point, but the guy standing next to Copeland, homie, you're gonna dye your hair bright blonde. You gotta put some toner in there, okay? It's too bright, but that's, again, beside the point. Like, that guy's ripping off parishioners, and Tucker Carlson's like, Jesus. Like, totally fine, totally fine. It's the vaccine that we need to be fear-mongering about, okay.
Okay, the nativity scenes are sold to Christians. It's not like they're selling it to some sort of COVID cult.
No,
and they're like,
it's a big win with atheists, trust me.
And
they love it.
If you were in a COVID cult or an atheist, why would you buy a scene of the manger?
Jesus.
The nativity scene. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense at all, right? Christians are buying that. And it's marketed by capitalists to Christians. And by the way, bizarre, because there was no COVID then, and Jesus came back from the dead, so presumably he wouldn't need a mask. Okay, so just to straighten out the record. But guys, the most important part here is Anna's point about, hey, wait, why didn't you call out these prosperity preachers? You want to talk about a narcissism. Kenneth Copeland has so many private jets that he owns an airport. And he keeps telling his parishioners, do not spend your own money on your family. Give it to me. Give it to me, me. And Tucker's never criticized them.
Well, he can relate to him.
Okay, and then the greatest irony is they want, they're in their religion, they want even the religious figures to look like you because of narcissism. You guys are the ones that created white Jesus. Jesus was, in the story, of course, Middle Eastern, decidedly brown, right? But in all the churches, you have the blondest, blue-eyed, white Jesus hanging up. Why? Because you wanted Jesus to look like you, because you're a narcissist. So he takes everything that's true about themselves and projects it onto his political opponents. That's why it's both hilarious, ridiculous, but also a bit brilliant, because the suckers that are watching this show, they will eat that up. They will not question it at all and go, can you believe those narcissists? Get me white Jesus. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.